Welcome back to part 3 of the Garden Report. Now we got Jared Weiss here. We got Sean Highkin of The Athletic who crashed the second one. Now let's talk about Dwyane Wade. He is now the point guard of the Chicago Bulls.
Well, if he
and that was fascinating. If he says it,
so,
it's true, right?
If he says so. I mean, they started Isaiah Cannon at point guard, but Wade said afterwards that they have to value the ball better, they have to turn the ball over less, and now that I'm the point guard, it starts with me. I think that was his exact quote. So if Dwyane Wade says it's the point guard, who else in the organization is going to tell him he's not the point guard?
And he ran point for a decent amount of the fourth quarter there. I would say him and Jimmy are basically at this point switching off. Cannon, most of his actions were coming off ball. And Hoiberg even said before the game that we're going to use Cannon off ball. That is, of course, before Hoiberg stormed off at the end of his postgame presser. But Wade had almost a triple-double. He turned back the clock on a lot of those. Was this the best performance that Wade's had all year?
Maybe at one end of the floor it was. He had some pretty bad defensive lapses. There was one that kind of went viral where Avery Bradley was able to go backdoor right behind him and get a rebound and get a basket where he just completely fell asleep. He had a couple of other ones. But, you know, yeah, I think he did overall a pretty good job of running the offense. He even knocked down a couple of threes. I think they've kind of gotten to the point, Jared, where they've started having him run point basically just out of necessity. They started Isaiah Cannon tonight, and then they tried to have Michael Carter-Williams be the backup. And after like 2 minutes, that was just such a disaster. They were like, okay, we can't do that anymore. So now you're kind of out of options because you tried Jaren Grant. That didn't work. You tried MCW. That didn't work. You are not going to try Denzel Valentine for some reason. But short of that, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to go with Wade. And I thought he did a pretty good job overall of that.
Haven't we said after every single game so far that MCW, they tried it and it didn't work?
Well, but I think this time it really didn't work because in the last game, you know, he had a first half stint, he was bad. He had a second half stint, he was bad. This time he came in near the end of the first quarter and immediately the Celtics, I think they went on like an 8-0 run or something, and so it was pretty bad. And then he didn't even play the rest of the game until garbage time. So I think at that point Hoiberg even realized, look, that this guy can't be on the floor.
And they can't have Butler run point the entire time. Butler played 39 minutes. Avery Bradley's on the floor with him all 39 of those minutes. I asked Stevens about that. Stevens is trying to consistently rotate his subs so that he always has one or two of his three great defenders on the floor whenever Wade and Butler are out there so that the Celtics can switch. The Celtics, they did a little bit of the zone that they did in the fourth quarter in Game 4, but they just switched as much as possible in the third and fourth quarter. They, you know, a little bit of kind of like zoning on like sides of the floor, sort of, but having all three of those defenders out there allows them to switch really well. And Isaiah Thomas was playing really hard defense tonight, so Chicago couldn't really figure anything out except for some really great plays by Wade individually.
No, and I mean this is kind of, you know, where things broke down. The Bulls, I think they led by 1 with 10 minutes left in the game. And then they just kind of had a complete meltdown. There were some technical fouls, some bad fouls, some calls didn't go their way. They got frustrated about it. And then they just gave up some easy baskets to Boston, and that's kind of where the game turned.
Yeah, Robin Lopez got that tech. There was like a 20-second stretch where the Celtics went on a 6-0 run at the free throw line because of shooting fouls and technical fouls stacked onto that, and it just completely fell apart at that point. The Celtics finished on, I think it was a 20-5 run from like around that point at the 10-minute mark, so when they took all the starters out with about a minute and a half left. I mean, I feel like that kind of punctuated this series. Well, obviously there's a chance for the Bulls to turn it around, but the Bulls are consistently regressing at the end of these games.
Right, and I mean, this is just kind of what we thought the entire time. I mean, yeah, we saw obviously what happened in the first two games, and clearly having Rondo in the lineup would change some things. The Celtics never really figured out what to do with him. But all along, I mean, my pick at the beginning of the series was Celtics in 6 because I thought they were the more talented team. They were better coached. They played more together. And we're just kind of seeing that. There was some weird stuff that happened in the first couple of games, and we're kind of just seeing now the more talented team is taking control of the series.
So is it going to finish at 6?
I think so. I think if the Bulls were going to win the series, they had to win this game.
But we're having so much fun on the Garden Report together.
This is great.
That's to go 7.
I wish we could do Garden Report. I mean, Rondo talked this morning at Shoot Around about how he might play, you know, Game 8, Game 9, Game 10. I kind of wish it was that just so we could do more Garden Reports.
I mean, ever since Jimmy Butler said we'll win this series no matter how many games it takes, I've been saying Bulls in 8 ever since. So one day, my friends. So we're going to wrap it up here. Before we go, my producer is signaling I should do the Blue Apron read. So if you want to get 3 free meals and free shipping, go to blueapron.com/garden report. Sign up there. You're going to help out our show. You're going to get delicious meals that you get to cook at home with the ingredients pre-portioned so that road warriors like us can actually cook a meal when we go home. If you're just lazy or you don't like grocery shopping or if you don't like leaving the house ever, Blue Apron's perfect for you. Never leave the house again. Never grocery shop again. Just use Blue Apron. Go to blueapron.com/garden report. we're going to finish this one up. Sean, thank you so much for an amazing week. Let's not screw up this high five. There you go.
That was
Could have been bad. Could have been worse, though. But it's been amazing having an old friend of mine, Sean Hyken of The Athletic and the Lockdown Bulls podcast, joining me on the Garden Report all week long, or 2 weeks long, actually.
Yeah.
And we could be back on Sunday for a 1 p.m. Game 7. I hope so. The more the better.
I'll take a 1 p.m. tip over an 8:30 tip.
That is definitely good. Yeah, I can't wait to get out of here. So that'll do it for Jeremy, for Jimmy Toscano, who was over here before, and Nick Gelso, the owner of CLNS, who's over there. I'm Jared Weiss. This is Sean Hyken. We will see you either after Game 7 or Game 1 of the second round of the NBA playoffs, where they'll be either facing the Washington Wizards, which is most likely at this point, or possibly the Atlanta Hawks if Dwight Howard ever decides to play defense again. This is the Garden Report on CLNS Radio and Celtics Blog.